Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. We've been reading from Adi Lila and we are on chapter 7 at the moment. And we'll begin from verse 119. Mukham karoti vachalam, pangam laghayate girim, yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam, Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. The potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in three categories, namely the spiritual potency, the living entities, and ignorance. The spiritual potency is full of knowledge. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment, and the third category, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. Purport: this is a quotation from Vishnu Puran 6.7.61. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Jnanakhya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samajananya Tritya Shakti Ishyate. In the previous verse quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, it has been established that the living entities are to be categorized among the Lord's potency. The Lord is potent and there are varieties of potency. Parasaya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. Now in this quotation from the Vishnu Puran, this is further confirmed. There are varieties of potencies and they have been divided into three categories, namely spiritual, marginal, and external. The spiritual potency is manifested in the spiritual world. Krishna's form, qualities, activities, and entourage are all spiritual. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Ajo api san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaro api san Prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my spiritual potency I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Atma Maya refers to the spiritual potency. When Krishna comes to this or any other universe, he does so with his spiritual potency. We take birth by the force of the material potency. But as stated here with reference to the Vishnu Puran, the Kshetrajana or living entity belongs to the spiritual potency. Thus, when we free ourselves from the clutches of the material potency, we can also enter the spiritual world. The material potency is the energy of darkness or complete ignorance of spiritual activities. In the material potency, the living entity engages himself in fruitive activities, thinking that he can be happy through expansion in terms of material energy. They manifest in this age of Kali because humans are the products of the elements of the material world, and that everything will end with the annihilation of the body. Therefore, they conclude that as long as one has a material body consisting of material senses, one should enjoy the senses as much as possible. Since they are atheists, they do not care whether there is next life. Such activities are described in this verse as avidya karma samjananya. The material energy is separated from the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, although it is originally created by the Supreme Lord, he is not actually present within it. The Lord also confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Matsthani Sarvabhutani, everything is resting on me. This indicates that everything is resting on his energy. For example, the planets are resting within outer space, which is the separated energy of Krishna. The Lord explains in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4, Bhumi apo analo vayu kham mano buddhir evacha ahankar iti yam me bhinna prakritir ashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these eight constitute my separated material energies. The separated energy acts as if it were independent, but here it is said that although such energies are certainly factual, they are not independent but merely separated. The separated energy can be understood from a practical example. I compose books by speaking into a dictaphone, and when the dictaphone is replayed, it appears that I am speaking personally, but actually I'm not. I spoke personally, but then the dictaphone tape, which is separate from me, acts exactly like me. Similarly, the material energy originally emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it acts separately, although the energy is supplied by the Lord. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate characharam sacharacharam. This material energy or nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving beings under the guidance or superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The material energy works as if independent, although it is not actually independent. In this verse from the Vishnu Puran, the total energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is classified in three divisions, namely the spiritual or internal potency of the Lord, the marginal potency or Kshetrajana, the living entity, and the material potency, which is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and appears to act independently. When Srila Vyasadeva, by meditation and self-realization, saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also saw the separated energy of the Lord standing behind him. Pashyat Purusham Puranam Mayam Chatad Apashrayam. Vyasadeva also realized that it is this separated energy of the Lord, the material energy, that covers the knowledge of the living entities. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. The separated material energy bewilders the living entities or the jivas, and thus they work very hard under its influence, not knowing that they are not fulfilling their mission in life. Unfortunately, most of them think that they are the body and should therefore enjoy the material senses irresponsibly, since when death comes, everything will be finished. This atheistic philosophy also flourished in India, where it was sometimes propagated by Charvak Muni, who said, Ridam kritva ghritam pibet, yava jivet sukham jivet, bhasmi bhutasya dehasya kutah punar agmano bhavet. His theory was that as long as one lives, one should eat as much ghee as possible. In India, ghee, clarified butter, is basic ingredient in preparing many varieties of foods. Since everyone wants to enjoy nice food, Charvak Muni advised that one eat as much ghee as possible. One may say, I have no money, how shall I purchase ghee? Charvak Muni, however, says, if you have no money, then beg, borrow, or steal, but in some way secure ghee and enjoy life. For one who further objects that he will be held accountable for such unauthorized activities as begging, borrowing, and stealing, Charvak Muni replies, you will not be held responsible. As soon as your body is burned to ashes after death, everything is finished. This is called ignorance from the Bhagavad Gita. It is misunderstood that one does not die with the annihilation of this body. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The annihilation of one's body involves changing to another. Tatha dehantar prapti hai. Therefore, to perform irresponsible activities in the material world is very dangerous. Without knowledge of the spirit soul and its transmigration, people are allured by the material energy to engage in many such activities, as if one could become happy simply by dint of material knowledge, without reference to spiritual existence. Therefore, the entire material world and its activities are referred to as avidya karma samgyanya or samjananya. in order to dissipate the ignorance of the human beings who work under the material energy which is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord comes down to revive their original nature of spiritual activities. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. As soon as they deviate from their original energy, the Lord comes to teach them. Sarv dharman paritachya mam ekam sharanam vraja. My dear living entities, give up all material activities and simply surrender unto me for protection. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66. It is the statement of Charvak Muni that one should beg, borrow, or steal money to purchase ghee and enjoy life. Rinam kritva gritam pivet. Thus, even the greatest atheist of India recommends that one eat ghee, not meat. No one could conceive of human beings eating meat like tigers and dogs, but men have become so degraded that they are just like animals and can no longer claim to have a human civilization. So as we know, the purports are all written by Srila Prabhupada, so that's why in the middle of this verse, Prabhupada was giving the analogy of a dictaphone when he was comparing the material energy and the spiritual. Verse 120. The Mayavad philosophy is so degraded that it has taken the insignificant living entities to be the Lord, the Supreme Truth, thus covering the glory and supremacy of the Absolute Truth with monism. Purport. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur comments in this connection that in all Vedic scriptures, the Jiva Tattva, the truth of the living entities, is mentioned to be one of the energies of the Lord. If one does not accept the living entity to be a minute infinitesimal spark of the Supreme, but equates a Jiva Tattva with the Supreme Brahman or Supreme Personality of Godhead, it must be understood that his entire philosophy is based on a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, Sripad Shankaracharya purposely claimed the Jiva Tattva or living entities to be equal to the Supreme God. Therefore, his entire philosophy is based on a misunderstanding, and it misguides people to become atheists whose mission in life is unfulfilled. The mission of human life, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. But the Mayavad philosophy misleads one to define the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and pose oneself as the Supreme Lord. Thus, it has misguided hundreds of thousands of innocent men. In the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva has described that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is potent and that everything material or spiritual is but an emanation of his energy. The Lord, the Supreme Brahman, is the origin of source of everything, Janmadi Asya Yataha, and all other manifestations are emanations of different energies of the Lord. This is also confirmed in Vishnu Puran. Ekadesha Sthita Syagner Jyotsna Vistarini Yatha Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Tathedam Akhilam Jagat. Whatever we see in this world is simply an expansion of the different energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is exactly like a fire that spreads illumination for a long distance, although it is situated in one place. This is a very vivid example. Similarly, it is stated that as everything in the material world exists in the sunshine, which is the energy of the sun, so everything exists on the basis of the spiritual and material energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, although Krishna is situated in his own abode, Golok Eva Nivasati Akhilatma Bhuta, where he enjoys his transcendental pastimes with the cowherd boys and gopis, he is nevertheless present everywhere, even within the atoms of this universe. Andantara Stha Parmanu Chayanatra. This is the verdict of the Chayantra. This is the verdict of the Vedic literature. Unfortunately, I'll read this statement again, which is the verdict of the Vedic literatures. Anantara stha parmanu chantara stham, which means Lord, He is nevertheless present everywhere, even within the atoms of this universe. Unfortunately, the Mayavadi philosophy, misguiding people by claiming the living entities to be Lord, has created havoc throughout the entire world and led almost everyone to godlessness by discovering the glories of the Supreme Lord. The Mayavadi philosophers have done the greatest disservice to human society. It is to counteract these most abominable activities of the Mayavadi philosophers that Lord Chaitanya has introduced the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Harer Naam eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva gatir anyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. People should simply engage in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, for thus they will gradually come to understand that they are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead as they have been taught by the Mayavadi philosophers, but are eternal servants of the Lord. As soon as one engages himself in the transcendental service of the Lord, he becomes free. Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatitayetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. This is from Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Therefore, the Hare Krishna movement or Krishna conscious movement is the only light for the foolish living entities who think either that there is no God or that if God exists, He is formless and they themselves are also God. These misconceptions are very dangerous, and the only way to counteract them is to spread the Hare Krishna movement. Verse 121 in the Vedanta Sutra. In his Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva has described that everything is but a transformation of the energy of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, has misled the world by commenting that Vyasadeva was mistaken. Thus, he has raised great opposition to theism throughout the entire world. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in the Vedanta Sutra of Srila Vyasadeva, it is definitely stated that all cosmic manifestations result from transformations of various energies of the Lord. Shankaracharya, however, not accepting the energy of the Lord, thinks that it is the Lord who is transformed. He has taken away many clear statements from the Vedic literature and twisted them to try prove that if the Lord or the Absolute Truth were transformed, his oneness would be disturbed. Thus, he has accused Srila Vyasadeva of being mistaken in developing his philosophy of monism. Therefore, he has established Vivartavad or the Mayavad theory of illusion. In the Brahma Sutra, 2nd chapter, the first aphorism is as follows: Tad ananyavatam tvam arambhana shabda dibhayaha. Commenting on in this sutra, in his Sharirak Bhashya, Shankaracharya has introduced the statement Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam from the Chanda Yoga Upanishad 6.1.4 to try to prove that acceptance of the transformation of the energy of the Supreme Lord is faulty. He has tried to define transformation of energy in a misguided way, which will be explained later. Since his conception of God is impersonal, he does not believe that the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the energies of the Lord. For as soon as one accepts the various energies of the Absolute Truth, one must immediately accept the Absolute Truth to be personal, not impersonal. A person can create many things by the transformation of his energy. For example, a businessman transforms his energy by establishing many big factories or business organizations. Yet he remains a person, although his energy has been transformed into these many factories or business concerns. The Mayavadi philosophers do not understand this simple fact. Their tiny brains and poor fund of knowledge cannot afford them sufficient enlightenment to realize that when a man's energy is transformed, the man himself is not transformed, but remains the same person, not believing in the fact that the energy of the absolute truth is transformed. Shankaracharya has propounded in his theory of illusion. This theory states that although the absolute truth is never transformed, we think that it is transformed, which is an illusion. Shankaracharya does not believe in this transformation of the energy of the absolute truth, for he claims that everything is one and that the living entity is therefore also one with the Supreme. This is the Mayavad theory. Srila Vyasadeva has explained that the absolute truth is a person who has different potencies merely by his desire that there be a creation and by his glance. Sa Ekshata, he created this material world. Sa Asrijata, after creation he remains the same person, he is not transformed into everything. One should accept that the Lord has inconceivable energies and that it is by his order that will varieties of manifestations have come into existence. In the Vedic literature it is said, Sa tattvato anyatha buddhir vikara iti udaritaha. This mantra indicates that from one fact, other fact is generated. For example, a father is a fact and son generated from father is a second fact. Thus both of them are truths, although one is generated from other. This generation of second independent truth from first truth is called vikara, or transformation resulting in a byproduct. The Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, and the energies that have emanated from him and are existing separately, such as the living entities and the cosmic manifestation, are also truths. This is an example of transformation, which is called vikar or parinam. To give another example of vikar, milk is a truth, but the same milk may be transformed into yogurt. Thus, yogurt is a transformation of milk, although the ingredients of yogurt and milk are the same. In the Chandogya Upanishad, there is the following mantra, Etad Atmayam Idam Sarvam. This mantra indicates without a doubt that the entire world is a Brahman. The absolute truth has inconceivable energies as confirmed in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Shruyate. And the entire cosmic manifestation is evidence of these different energies of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is a fact, and therefore whatever is created by the Supreme Lord is also factual. Everything is true and complete, Purnam, and the original Purnam, the complete absolute truth, always remain the same. Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya. The absolute truth is so perfect that although innumerable energies emanate from him and manifest creations which appear to be different from him, he nevertheless maintains his personality. He never deteriorates under any circumstances. It is to be concluded that the entire cosmic manifestation is a transformation of the energy of the Supreme Lord, not of the Supreme Lord or Absolute Truth himself, who always remains the same. The material world and the living entities are transformations of the energies of the Lord. The Absolute Truth or Brahman, who is the original source, in other words, the Absolute Truth Brahman is the original ingredient, and the other manifestations are transformations of this ingredient. This is also confirmed in the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1, Yat va imani bhutani jayante. This entire cosmic manifestation is made possible by the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, it is indicated that Brahman, the Absolute Truth, is the original cause, and that the living entities, jivas, and the cosmic manifestations are effects of this cause. The cause being a fact, the effects are also factual. They are not illusion. Shankaracharya has inconsistently tried to prove that it is an illusion to accept the material world and the jivas as byproducts of the Supreme Lord, because in his conception the existence of the material world and the jivas is different and separate from that of the Absolute Truth. With this jugglery of understanding, Mayavadi philosophers have propagated the slogan Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. which declares that the absolute truth is fact, but the cosmic manifestation and the living entities are simply illusions, or that all of them are in fact the absolute truth and the material world and living entities do not separately exist. It is therefore to be concluded that Shankaracharya, in order to present the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the material nature as indivisible and ignorant, tries to cover the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He maintains that the material cosmic manifestation is mithya or false, but this is a great blunder. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a fact, how can His creation be false? Even in ordinary dealings, one cannot think the material cosmic manifestation to be false. Therefore, Vaishnava philosophers say that the cosmic creation is not false but temporary. It is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but since it is wonderfully created by the energy of the Lord, to say it is false is blasphemous. Non-devotees factually appreciate the wonderful creation of the material nature, but they cannot appreciate the intelligence and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is behind this material creation. Sripad Ramanujacharya, however, refers to Sutra from the Aitareya Upanishad 1.1.1, Atma va idam agra asit, which points out that the Supreme Atma, this absolute truth, existed before the creation. One may argue, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely spiritual, how is it possible for Him to be origin of creation and have within Himself both material and spiritual energies? To answer this challenge, Sripad Ramanujacharya quotes a mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1 that states Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisam vishanti. This mantra confirms that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is originally spiritual, and when he enters the spiritual world or the body of the Supreme Lord, he still retains the identity as an individual soul. In this connection, Sripad Ramanujacharya gives the example that when a green bird enters a green tree, it does not become one with the tree. It retains its identity as a bird, although it appears to merge with the greenness of the tree. To give another example, an animal that enters a forest keeps its individuality, although apparently the beast merges with the forest. Similarly, in the material existence, both the material energy and the living entities of the marginal potency maintain their individuality. Thus, although the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead interact within the cosmic manifestation, each keeps its separate existence, individual existence, merging with the material or spiritual energies. Therefore, does not involve loss of individuality according to Sri Ramanujapad's theory of Vishishtadvaita, although all the energies of the Lord are one, which keeps its individuality. Vaishishtya. Sripad Shankaracharya has tried to mislead the readers of the Vedanta Sutra by misinterpreting the words Anando Mayo Bhasyat, and he has even tried to find fault with Vyasadeva. All the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra need not to be examined here. However, since we intend to present the Vedanta Sutra in a separate volume, so we will continue our reading of Adi Lila from verse 122 next time. Thank you for joining. Hare Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.